Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial, coming at you from Podcast Summit in Atlanta. And joining me on this segment is Star Mpama. Star, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Star, tell us a little bit about your work, your mission, and who are the folks that you help?
Okay, Star Mpama is the name. I have a podcast called Beyond the Finish Line with Star. It's a safe space where athletes come to share their untold stories. It's a virtual podcast, and the mission and vision behind Beyond the Finish Line with Star is to see that I put out these untold stories out there behind the scenes that people do not see. You know, most times people are just so invested on the 9 seconds that happens on track, the 90 minutes on the football pitch, the basketball games and all of that. But people really do not understand what it takes to be an athlete. It doesn't matter which sport you play, but they do not know the sacrifices put in, the downtimes, the broken moments. Even after you have won a medal, there are still downtimes. So people do not really understand what happens to athletes realistically. And I try to put out these stories out there. And also, a lot of persons has this notion in their head, which is, once I become an athlete, I go pro and I make the money, but people do not realize that athletics or sports in general is just a door to life itself.
Let's unpack that a little bit more. When you say they don't realize it, what is the reality? What is it that they think in their head, and then what's the reality of it?
So the reality is that sports or being an athlete is not something you're going to do forever. Sports has a lifespan. And once the lifespan is over, in that period while you were still where you were, if you did not make plans after, you're done. You find yourself going back to square one. You find yourself building all over again, especially if you've made it to the top. Because sometimes when people get to that point where it's like, okay, they didn't achieve the dreams and goals they had for track or whatever sports they play, quickly they want to go back and see what else can I do. At that point, it's not so bad. But imagine when you've reached the peak of your career and you're like 30, 40, you've made good money, you've made your name, but you didn't invest. You didn't think that there's going to be a time, or better still, you're saying, oh, I'll retire by 40, and injury caught up with you at 29. No investment, no plan, no nothing. You're back to square one. It's like life happened. And if you are not a fast or smart thinker, or you don't find that opportunity needed, you lose everything. And guess one thing about all of this thing is the mental aspect of it weighs on you. You become overwhelmed. Some people get depressed. Some people begin to have inferiority complex. Some people lose themselves in the process. Some people get so ashamed of what is this person going to say. And all of this just keeps people in, and nothing happens. The progress never comes. You get?
So when's the best time for an athlete to start thinking about all of this and planning for their future? When's the best time?
Well, the moment you tell yourself, I want to do sports, I want to play sports as a career, now you should understand. The first thing that comes to your mind is, I'm going to give it my all, but it's not going to last forever. So while I'm giving it my all, in that moment, I need to start building my empire for when that lifespan would be over, so I have something else to, fall back to. So if I become a pro athlete, I get signed, get the sponsorship deals and all of that, all the money is flowing. How do I multiply that money flowing? How do I impact into my society? How do I build a community? How do I build a fan base? Because at that point in time, everybody's going to love you because you're the star. What happens when you're no more at that space? Have you been able to leave your name in the sand of time? Yes.
Because, you hear so much about athletes ending up broke. That's too common. What are some of the biggest mistakes those athletes made and are making that really sabotage that?
Planning. Most times athletes think about the now. They don't think about tomorrow. They don't think about 10 years from now. They don't think about 20 years from now. So it's planning, purpose, vision, drive, understanding where am I headed. When you know where you're heading to, it makes your journey pretty easy. It's just like driving a car with a Google map and driving a car with somebody over the phone and you're like, okay, go here, go here, But when you have a map, when you know that you have a destination you're headed for, there's a vision, there's a goal, there's a plan, You're going to have your obstacles, potholes on the road. You're going to divert. But even when you divert, you know that there's an end point. So planning,
So,
that's just
so
pretty
it's
much
like
it.
that GPS where you've got that destination in mind, and
Mm-hmm.
all the GPS coordinates will point you the way.
Exactly.
So, what inspired you to get into this work, Star? How did you get started with all this?
Okay, well, for me, it was out of the hunger for sponsorship, or better still, the hunger for scholarship and leaving Nigeria to make a better life for myself. So while I was in Nigeria, my dad, I mean, everyone who knows a typical African parents understand that African parents are big on academics and wanting to see that their kids do well academically. And my dad would always say, "Oh, can't you see your mates? They have academic scholarships and all of that." And I said to myself, I am going to get this. I was doing what I was doing. I'm not a dull student, but the academic scholarship wasn't forthcoming. And somebody said, "Oh my goodness, what do you do?" I said, "I'm a model." He said, "Do you know if you run track and you train for just 1 or 2 years, you can travel abroad on a fully funded scholarship, and your parents do not have to worry." I consider the kind of family I'm coming from. I'm coming from a very humble home. And then I just put in the work. God being faithful, because I would say the fact that I have come this far has absolutely been the grace of God. I was able to earn a scholarship and I came down to the United States. Now, this is it. When I got here, it didn't turn out as I expected. You know, all of those dreams, the American dreams, it didn't turn out as I expected. But this is one thing I learned, and I feel like every athlete should know. There is a plan for everyone. It is not every athlete who would be on that podium. It is not every athlete who would have those medals and travel around the world. But this is the thing about being an athlete. There is this knowledge it instills in you that when you carry it into other areas, you are just amazed at how much you have impacted and how much progress you have made as a person. So coming here into the United States, being on a fully funded scholarship for the past 4 years, running track for the school that I attend, but at the same time, I have opened other means for myself, right? A podcast, I have an NGO running, and I'm an athlete manager. Now, it still surrounds the sport that I do, but you can tell how much I am doing what I do for my school, but at the same time, I'm impacting lives. I'm putting out the stories of these athletes, and I'm still trying to see how to educate those ones who are back home and does not completely understand what it is. And this is out of the experiences I had, and I said, I do not want these people to go through this route that I went through, and that's just pretty much what it is.
Before I ask you my last question,
Yes, sir.
is there anything I didn't think to ask you that you feel is really important to share before we wrap up?
Well, I would just say for myself, whatever it is you do as a person, ensure that you are working in accordance to the plan and purpose of God. Because the difference with working with God is that even when it doesn't look like it, everything you need is all put together. All you just need to do is trust. And that process and season of trusting is what builds you to greatness.
Terrific, Star. I really appreciate
Thank
you
you.
sharing with my audience. It's
Thank you.
terrific, and I
Thank
wish
you.
you continued success for you, for your work, and for all of your clients.
Thank you.
That was Star. I'm Mark Imperial, and that's all for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye-bye.